Hello, this is Jennifer Waymark, and you're listening to an Oshawa Museum podcast. This podcast series aims to actively promote awareness and appreciation of our community's history, highlighting remarkable artifacts, documents, photographs, or events from our past. We hope you enjoy the podcast. In 2009, after the passing of a unanimous motion in the House of Commons, June has become National Indigenous History Month. Harrietta Augusta, Gussie, Wawanosh Wells, was a student at Oshawa's Demill Lady College, which opened in 1876 and focused on teaching both the liberal arts as well as domestic skills. Gussie was the third child born to Chief William Wawanosh and Mary Waldron. The marriage was interracial, with her father being the first elected chief of the am-JIN-nun First Nation, formerly the Chippewas of Sarnia, and her mother being the daughter of a white missionary. Wells was the family's anglicized name. Upon graduating from Demill, Gussie applied for enfranchisement. Enfranchisement of Indigenous peoples meant the loss of their Indian status, and with that, their treaty and statutory rights as Indigenous people. It meant that they no longer had the right to live in their reserved community. Essentially, it worked alongside the residential school system to eradicate Indigenous cultures. Library and Archives Canada holds the governmental record regarding Gussie's application. The record is a good example of the steps the government expected the applicant to take before granting enfranchisement. The record shows that Gussie had proven herself worthy based on the process outlined by the government through her probation period. One of the pieces of evidence provided by Gussie as proof of her worthiness was her diploma from Demill Ladies College. When applying for enfranchisement, the Indigenous applicant had to demonstrate that they were, quote, civilized enough to live within the European concept of private property. The process began with the Superintendent General, a representative of the government, conducting a survey of the reserve lands and dividing the lands into lots. The Superintendent General then required the Band Council to assign these lots to individual band members. Individual property ownership was not a part of Indigenous culture and was in opposition to the communal nature of most Indigenous cultures. An applicant would also have to prove that they were, quote, civilized by showing they spoke either English or French, that they were free of debt, and that they had good moral character. Once they had met these standards, a location ticket was awarded to the applicant. This ticket was the ownership of that lot of land on the reserve assigned to them by the Band Council after the surveying process. Once assigned the location ticket, the applicant was then subjected to a 3-year probation period, during which time they had to prove that they were capable of using the land as a settler would. Once the applicant was enfranchised, they would be given title to that lot, and the land would become part of the surrounding municipality and no longer part of the reserve. In this respect, the government was able to regain the land from the reservation system. Enfranchisement was the surrender of Indian status and band membership in return for becoming a British subject. It was based on the theory that Indigenous peoples in their natural state were uncivilized. Once an Indigenous person acquired the skills, the knowledge, and the behavior valued by the, quote, civilized society, the Indigenous person might qualify for citizenship. Enfranchisement applicants who were doctors, lawyers, notary publics, ministers, or priests, or completed a university degree, automatically had their applications approved. This meant that, in most cases, they had the right to vote. For Gussie Wells, enfranchisement did not grant her the right to vote because women did not receive the right to vote until many years later, 1917 in Ontario and 1918 federally. Indigenous peoples, not enfranchised, did not receive the right to vote until 1960. From 1876 until 1920, only 250 Indigenous peoples successfully applied for enfranchisement. Harrietta Augusta, Gussie Wawanosh Wells, was one of those 250 to successfully apply for enfranchisement, based in part on her diploma from Oshawa's Demill Ladies College. This has been an Oshawa Museum podcast. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other historical video podcasts and subscribe to our channel.